Sunday night, it's a 10.5-point spread. Over under is 44.5. RJ, the 5 things you want to see from this squad.
All right, number 1.
Item.
Mike Fisher, shout out.
Get to the quarterback. Matt Ryan is a statue. Like, he's a smart player, sure, but he is clearly at the end of his rope. He's like a better decision-making but weaker-armed Eli Manning at the same stage of their career, right?
Dear God, that's mean.
No, but like, Eli.
That's a really creative.
That's mean.
That's a really creative.
It's good. It's mean.
Like, Eli had a good arm, but he was just dumb at the end.
Right.
Matt Ryan's got no arm, but he's probably pretty smart still.
Put them together, you have one competent older quarterback.
You have a decent. You got Trent Dilfer at the end if you put those two together.
Matt Ryan is a QBR 44. That's 26 in the league. 10 interceptions in 10 games. Just 1 off of the league's worst total. He's tied for the most fumbles league-wide. He's been sacked 32 times behind an O-line that's given up the most sacks this year.
His fault. A lot of them.
Yes.
They have the 5th worst pass blocking line according to Pro Football Focus. And has allowed
5th worst?
I have him as 8th worst in my BFF grades.
And has allowed their quarterback to be sacked 3 or more times in 8 of their 12 games.
Yeah, but like Bobby said, a lot of those are on him, and sometimes offensive lines catch. Sometimes they're boosted by their quarterback. A lot of times, and then sometimes they're, really dragged down.
The Colts have faced 5 teams this year that have a winning record. In those games, they've given up 24 sacks. So 5 a game. If you have a winning record against Indy, the average is 5 sacks a game. Now, a lot of that got skewed by Ellinger. The Patriots sacked him 9 times.
Yeah, Matt's got all those picks. He's got all those picks. Remember, Ellinger played a couple of games this year.
Just one, I think.
Just one?
Yeah.
Matt Ryan wasn't.
He started 2.
Matt Ryan was not supposed to return.
Right. He was supposed to be done for the year. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2. Please don't play Micah at linebacker. I don't care about Jonathan Taylor, okay? And anyone who thought about voting for him MVP last year should lose their vote, period, forever. But when Micah when they put him at linebacker against Green Bay, they got ran all over. All right? They got ran all over.
Is he average or so-so against as a run stopping linebacker?
I think that he's...
Because I don't recall any, wow, that's Ray Lewis against the run with Micah at linebacker.
He's got good natural instincts. He's obviously a freak athlete. The biggest problem for him is he gets lost in trash. So, like, if there's a big group of blockers, he gets taken out of the play occasionally. I think he can improve and become a better run defender. It's just, a lot of his work has been put in on pass rush. He said it earlier this week. He tries 8 pass rush moves to open every game. He'll go in there, try 8 pass rush moves, and then depending on what worked to open the game, that's what he then goes back to for the rest of the game. So he's so focused on pass rush technique and stuff that you're kind of asking him to play out of position at this point when you want him to defend the run like that.
Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, let's get Pollard some touches, man. Who's the most electric player on this offense? It's Tony Pollard.
Zach Martin.
It's Tony Pollard, in my opinion.
Zeke
was second.
Zeke was the better running back against the Giants. Looked really good too.
Yeah, he did. But when you factor in the passing game, to me, Pollard is, I believe, the most electric player. The only way I see them losing this game is they've settled for field goals. So in the red zone, if you settle for field goals, that's the only chance that the Colts have. 4th downs have to be green. They're a go this weekend. No field goals. Just go right for a 4th down. And then finally,
why you can beat them,
with field goals?
You can beat, yes.
I think
not giving them. One of the ways that these sorry teams can win, right? You go for it on your own 35.
Fair.
4th and 2.
But on the flip side,
to put Vanderjack in range.
Right. Vanderjack, absolutely. I do not believe that the Colts can do multiple 90-yard drives. So if you're like inside your own red zone, if you're in their red zone, and it's 4th and 2, man, avoid the field goal. Make them go 90. They ain't going 90 on you multiple times. And that comes to the last one. Early lead, make them a one-dimensional team, pin the ears back, yada, yada, yada.
Score?
Cowboys win. Let's see what I have.
I want to see if one person on the truckwreck.com text line picks Indianapolis, as this is a Detroit Piston trap game.
Cowboys win 38-7.
Woo!
Damn.
Beat down. I'll beat down with a 10.5-point spread. Bobby Keys.
So this is a game where I think Choppy's right. Look, Jonathan Taylor's really good, but Jonathan Taylor is not a guy that can just beat the Cowboys on his own. Unless it's going to take Jonathan Taylor playing really well and then the Cowboys having a bunch of mistakes. Like, it's going to take the Cowboys turning the ball over. It's going to take the Cowboys, doing some of the stuff like they did last week where it's go for it on 4th down and then you call it an awful run play and then Indianapolis gets the ball at the 40. It's going to take that in addition to Jonathan Taylor playing really well. So
here's some choppy stats on Jonathan Taylor. Last year, he led the league, obviously, in rushing, 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 106 yards per game. This year, here's your nerd stats. DYAR, like last year, he was...
Which is a defense-adjusted yards above replacement.
He was top 5 in DYAR, DVOA, VOA, top 5 in all. This year, he's 27th. He's minus 9% DVOA. He's minus 8% VOA. That ranks 30th via Football Outsider. So it's basically opposite. Basically, to dumb it down, which I need, he screwed me as the number 1 pick in fantasy. That's all you need to know.
And like to explain what they are, DYAR is like basically WAR for football, and DVOA is like per play.
What is it good for?
No, I just thought it was Christian Dior. I thought that's what DYAR was.
And then DVOA is defense adjusted value over average, which is a percent per play that you are better than the middle running back, the average player.
DVOA is a really reliable measure of who's good and who's not.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of DYAR. I think a lot of that is volume. Like if you play more, you're going to have a higher one. But DVOA, I think, is a really good one.
Yeah, and I think EPA can be effective, but I don't think it's even as reliable as DVOA. But just get out early. Like I understand Stephon Gilmore's across from you, but it's a little bit like a couple weeks ago when we were talking about playing Patrick Peterson. Like, it's a name, but it's not the same guy anymore.
Who are their 3 or 5 best players?
DeForest Buckner, Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman's a good receiver.
Is Gilmore still very good?
He's okay. He's not Anthony Brown, but he's not Trayvon Diggs. And so I think that he's somebody that you can have some success against. Now they've got a really good corner there, actually, a third corner who I wouldn't test, Isaiah Rodgers. He's been really good for them. But I think you get you put pressure on the Colts, score points early, get into a game like Minnesota where you put points on the board and you take the ball out of Dalvin Cook's hands, do the same thing to Jonathan Taylor.
A receiver who's going to be going up against these corners, the breakout of 88, CeeDee Lamb yesterday, talking about his continued chemistry with Dak Prescott.
You think about it in a sense to where, like, I didn't have my guy first 5 games, if you said, and then, it take a couple games for him to get, acclimated in the season, and then now he's hitting it full head of steam. He's starting to finally hit mid-season form after, the next couple games after the injury, and we cooking now.
Bobby, have you seen more development in his game or development in his talking, CeeDee Lamb, recently?
Oh, he's done such a tremendous job in terms of stepping up as a leader. Like we talked about that this offseason. One of the things they really wanted is they wanted more juice out of the receiver room. And they wanted guys to be more vocal and take on a greater leadership role. That's like whenever you were messing with me the other day about how I love the diva receivers. I love the diva receivers because you're on that island. You're isolated outside. Yeah. Like you've got to find every mental edge you can. You have to believe in your ability to beat the guy across from you. I think it's really important for corners and receivers to have that swagger. So CeeDee coming out this year talking about, look, I feel like if I don't get going, the offense doesn't get going, taking a stronger leadership role, speaking out, working really closely with Dak. His locker moved right next to his. They've got such a strong relationship, and I think a lot of that is due to that factor of CeeDee is stepping up more as a leader. I think he has played better this year, but I think the bigger growth has been him out front as more of a vocal guy.
And then Lamb on his own mental improvements during the year.
For sure mental, because physically I wouldn't be here if it was the physical aspects of it. So just understanding that mentally this game it'll take it away from you. You know, you let it get away from you. Everything that you worked for up to this point, it could take one pass that'll make you feel like all that you've done is worthless. You know, so everything is just all mental.
We've talked about that too, like how that's a big improvement you've seen from him is. In past years, he basically just referenced there. He took himself out of games at times, not literally off the field, but he would get stuck on a problem. He'd get stuck on something he did wrong, and then he'd beat himself up about it. That's honestly a big, as we've talked about with Odell Beckham, that's one of the big things that people tell you is a misnomer about Odell is Odell was not a cancer. Odell gets really intense and emotional about when mistakes are happening. And so CeeDee would tend to take himself out of games. And I think you've seen a lot this year, Dak go over there and go like, hey, come on, when something happens, like stay in this, you know, keep your head on. And he's done really good with that because you look at games, both the games against the Giants, the game against the Packers, you saw mistakes early and then you saw him step up and make huge plays down the stretch where he was able to show that mental resolve.
What is your official prediction? Sunday night on the Fan, Cowboys Colts.
I got Cowboys 31-14, and I hesitate because the last time I felt this confident that they were going to beat a team was Denver last year, and it went really terrible.
I'm going to go 33-13 or 32-10. Either way, beat down. 20-point win.
Blowout city. Easy money on the spread.
Degenerate
on the
pick?
Degenerate. It's in there.
20-point win for the Cowboys across the board. Peyton, have you decided?
I have. I'm going a little closer game than y'all. I have 31-21. I think Jonathan Taylor feasts, but the Cowboys win with these.